Know that it's 100% illegal to try to communicate with dolphins at your local nearby beach? Did you know that if you get caught doing this, you can get fined up to $100,000 or sent to jail for up to a year? Now, the video clip I'm about to show you is for entertainment purposes only. I repeat, entertainment purposes only. And it has me raising eyebrows on what's the real reason why they've made it illegal to try to communicate with dolphins. Use your own discernment, comment below, but let's discuss it. This video you're about to watch is quite an eyebrow raiser.
Dr. Paul Spong was trained in he was trained in a college to be a whale trainer, and he became the whale trainer at the Vancouver Zoo, and he started training this killer whale there. But then after about a year, he began to realize that the whale was training him. It became real obvious to him. He says, wait a minute, the whale's actually, having more influence on his life than he's having on that one. And the whale got him to tell him about all the whales that were being killed all over the world, and started to influence him to stop the whaling in the world. So what did he do? He started Greenpeace. He was the founder of Greenpeace. He got the 6 people together. It's one table, which I got to introduce with each one of these people, and got them to go out and start this movement. And he went out on the ships, and he'd been arrested like 100 times. He'd go out on these ships and just start shutting down everything. And they'd arrest him, trying to get him stopped. And they did. They eventually got stopped the whaling in I don't know how many countries. There's like lots and lots of countries that Greenpeace has stopped all of this on. And one day he came to me and he said, the whales told him, he says that he believed that he was in direct communication with them telepathically, that he could just talk to them. He could tell them in his head to do any of the things that he wanted them to do in the water, and they would just do it. And he got to the place where he just knew that it was just like talking. And they told him that there was no such thing as an individual whale or an individual dolphin in the world, that they were really cells in a larger body of consciousness. And that communication occurred, that all there had to be, if there was a dolphin, there only needed to be another dolphin within a 1,000-mile radius. And that dolphin could communicate to the whole through that one. In other words, they did have a 1,000-mile limit in their communication. And this whale wanted to prove this to him. He says, I will prove to you that this is true. So he asked me if he could have my house. I had a house in 450 miles inland on this place called Kootenai Lake. And he says, can I borrow your house for the winter? So I gave it to him. And he went in, and he was going to set up a sensory deprivation tank to float in there to get still enough to be able to make the communication, but he never even put it together. And so I came back a few months later, 3 or 4 months later, and he had removed a few walls of my house. It was a funny feeling, I'll tell you. And put these windows there that weren't there before and things. It was really beautiful, but it was shocking. And he had still not made contact. He said, I need more time. And I said, well, okay. So, but I was there, so we were all living together. Him and his wife was living there, and me and my wife were living there, and my kids. And about 2 weeks later, he used to have, though if anybody, who knows Dr. Paul Spong? You know Paul Spong? Yeah. He's got kind of short hair now, and he looks very kind of professional-like. But he used to have really long hair and a really long beard, and in those days. And he came into the room one morning after about 2 weeks, and he had shaved his beard off on one side of his head and cut the hair short on one side of his head. And I said to Paul, I know something's up. I'm sure of it. He says, yeah, I made contact last night. And he says, I'm sure that I did. I did it. And he says, they told me that I was going to be a large influence in the world in all of this, and that I had to look respectable. He says, so today is my transition day. So for that day, he walked around half and half, and the next day he shaved off the other side. And what they told him was, the way they were going to prove it was, he said that he was to go to this bay north of Vancouver, a very specific spot, and he was to go there with video equipment and everything so that he could prove what was about to happen. And he was to tell his people, he had a whole group of people that worked with him, he was to tell them what was to happen so that there would be like no backing out of this whole thing. And that on a certain day, at a certain time, which I think was 12 noon on a certain day, all the whales, of which there were about 100 of them, of a certain species, would come into this bay, would swim up to the shoreline, lift out of the water, and look him in the eyes. And that's exactly what happened. He went up there with about 30 people, and they put their microphones in the water and everything, and they sat around and they waited for this time. And sure enough, all these whales came swimming up to the shore, lifted out and looked him in the eyes. And obviously, he was never the same after that. He started the Orca Lab, which was started in that very spot, and he's been merged into whale research ever since then, and on his own, not using through the governments or anything else like he did before. And he spends all his time, I taught him how to play the silver flute, and spends all his time out in canoes with him, playing flutes to them and communicating with them, that he's now learned how to do. And so the whales they have an extraordinary level of awareness. We can't really talk about it because later I'm going to try to tell you, when I talk about the electromagnetic spectrum and light and all these other kinds of things when we get into this,